PEP Radio is a part of the Pennsylvania Equality Project that plays music, news, and weather, actively advocating for the LGBTQ+ and disabled since 2024.
PEP Radio, available on Live 365, Roku, Alexa, and at paequality.com.
Here at Gay SA Radio, we're very happy to welcome the Othering podcast to our airwaves. Catch the show every Thursday at noon CAT, bringing fresh voices and compelling conversations straight to you.
Head over to gsaradio.stream to find out how you can tune in and become part of our family. Don't miss it, only on Gay SA Radio, where you are family.
One man and one woman join forces to rid the world
What are you doing?
of inequality and fascism.
Seriously?
I'm trying I'm trying to do a promo here.
For whom? What are you doing?
Welcome to the Othering Podcast with Mike and Dory. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, hello. Very nice to meet both of you.
Nice to meet you.
All right, today we are talking to Alison Hayes. Alison is a disability coach, author, blogger, and educator. She has been managing disabilities since her first diagnosis at the age of 3, nice and young, but didn't truly identify as disabled until she needed to apply for Social Security disability in her early 20s due to her functional neurological disorder. She's used her life experience to create Thriving While Disabled, which is a blog, later became a coaching service, and a book series to help people with disabilities recognize and navigate the many broken systems that we face. Her books include Thriving While Disabled, Recognizing Bias, and Thriving While Disabled, Navigating Disability Finances, both of which are guides to help people with disabilities, or those who love us, better understand structural ableism and practical steps to improve one's quality of life despite their challenges. Alison strives to increase others' awareness of intersectionality, often using her own identity as a bisexual disabled woman to illustrate aspects of these challenges. Welcome, Alison. It's great to have you.
And thank you so much for actually talking with us, because this is cool.
Always.
I mean, of course, everybody has been like awesome, and I am so grateful to have this platform to get to talk to everybody. But let's talk about you today. So, if you don't mind my asking and talking about it, but you mentioned that you first were disabled since the age of 3.
Yes.
Was it the FND at that point, or was it something else like asthma, things like that?
Oh, no, it was completely, utterly different. Basically, my life's been a series of having something come up, figuring out how to manage it, and then having something completely different pop up. So when I was 3, they found that I had a gross motor disability, which basically just means that I wasn't good at coordinating my body.
Okay.
I went through some physical therapy and related work and was able to bring that down to a fine motor disability, which I still have, which, I mean, at this point, it's not a huge impact on my life. Basically, my handwriting's bordering on illegible, especially if I write quickly, and other things that require like fine hand-eye coordination, I'm going to be below average at it.
Gotcha. Honestly, does anybody's handwriting look really all that great anymore?
I was thinking the same thing.
I mean, have you seen doctors?
Oh, right. It's just, there was a lot of expectations of decent handwriting, and I got dinged a lot for how bad my handwriting was.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
And my parents actually helped me manage that by getting me a computer way before computers were much of a thing. And I had a laptop and learned before laptops were much of a thing, and learned how to type by the time I was 6. So throughout school, I had a little computer with me that I would type notes on when things got to be overwhelming, and that was easier for me.
So was school understanding of your issues and the help that you needed?
Well, yeah, my family had very good understanding. So I started out
Right.
right away with this, oh, something's different. Let's put the solution on it. So there was no blame, there was no shame, there was none of the things that can often accompany having a disability, other than my classmates were very confused because I was using the resource room and in the advanced classes at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That would do it. I honestly, I think there was a time when I did that too, and everybody's like, what, huh? And it's just like, don't worry about it. It has nothing to do with you.
Right. And so it was that kind of stuff. So I had some stigma that I dealt with, but my brain didn't fully connect it with the term disability or the disabled identity. When I was 9, I was diagnosed with depression, and it was the same kind of thing. It was, my mom had depression and had been dealing with it for much of her life. And so I just, okay, this is a new piece of who I am. And I went to therapy and I got on meds, but I didn't think about it as a disability. It was just part of who I was. But when my FND kicked in college, after I was finally diagnosed, which took about 3 years, with that stopped me.
Yeah.
I could not work. I could not follow my career plans. I had to apply for Social Security disability. And so that was when I had to go through that mental, emotional identity crisis, for want of a better word, of, oh my God, I'm disabled. And now what do I do? And how do I process this? And what next? So that's why I talk about it that way. I had disabilities the whole time, but there were always things that I could manage and work around, and so I didn't think of them the way society at large
Yes.
disabilities.
I did the same thing. Like, I didn't realize I was disabled as a kid until I started thinking back about it. And I'm like, well, I was talking to my therapist and I'm like, well, children don't usually have, chronic pain in their feet. And she's like, yeah. and I'm like thinking, oh my God. And they don't have chronic pain in their back either. They don't have asthma. These aren't normal things that all children have. And it was just like, oh my God, I have been disabled my entire life. Yes. And sometimes that's like a holy shit moment because again, you're used to seeing, even if you're like, wide open minded, you always see people in either with a speech impediment or a, noticeable limp, or they're in a wheelchair. And that's supposed to be what disabled is, not, thinking differently or having breathing problems and, or being in chronic pain and still functional.
Right. All of those non-apparent conditions that are actually a huge percentage of the disabled population were trained not to think about them as disabilities, mainly because those of us with all of these things can pass as abled.
Right. I have a lot of mental health issues, and I never thought of it as a disability until more recently.
Well, I made him.
Pretty much. That's pretty much true.
Well, and that's the thing. I think people learning to identify as disabled is the big thing to help break down the stigma.
Yeah.
And people whose disabilities are not apparent, I kind of almost view it as part of our job is, when it's safe to do so, make it apparent.
Yes. And I love the fact that you put that caveat in there, when it's safe to do so, because so many people just want to say, well, just do it. And that's great. But not all of us have the privilege of coming out and saying, this is what's wrong with me.
Right.
Because sometimes you either live in a country or in an area or something that isn't necessarily conducive to safety.
Correct. Oh, absolutely. I think the number one concern always has to be your safety, your mental health, the impacts that what you do is going to have in the world. After you've got yourself okay, then you would go activisty for the rest of the community. But you have to be safe first, because nobody else can make you safe. Only
That is
you
true.
can.
And yeah, I mean, there comes a point where sometimes you can't make yourself safe and you just got to do it anyway.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
But if there is a chance that you can make yourself safe first, do that.
100%. And it's also, I mean, I think one of the big difference with the apparent versus non-apparent is when and how you're outed. And I think that's also very true for other things, including being part of the LGBT community. Racial identities, people see right away.
Yeah, we stick out like a sore thumb. You can't miss us.
And so it becomes, all right, well, this is part of who I am, and people are going to see that, period. So I have to figure out how to get through the world knowing that they know.
Yes.
It's the same kind of thing with visible, apparent disabilities and conditions that people are showing their disability and signaling their disability by having assistive technology that's not socially acceptable.
And it's nice to hear that perspective and to have someone, and I know there's a lot of people out there that have that, but to see it from not just the disabled side, you see it and you look at it and research it from all the marginalized group sides and how they correlate with each other. And I think a lot of people forget that. They think race is one thing, disability is, yeah, that's something else. It doesn't matter as much or whatever. And it's nice to see them all come together and have people that understand that.
Oh, 100%. And also, it stacks.
Right.
There's been a lot of research done related to like people with intersectional identities, like LGBT community and racial identities.
Right.
And people who are both are much, much more likely to be mistreated for either one than people who only have one or the other identity. It's that multiply marginalized identity piece. And that just means the more marginalized your identity is, the harder it is for you to get through things safely.
Well, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so marginalized that I don't even exist, I like to say, because of the fact that, yeah, I'm a part of the LGBTQ, I'm bisexual, and then and I'm also mixed, and, you know, so that makes me marginalized even more because we only make up apparently 1%. And then I'm a female. And, you know, so it's like the list goes on and on. I wear glasses. I have browner skin. And so all of these things just automatically make me so marginalized that it's just like everything bothers me. You know, if you disparage penguins, I'm going to feel it.
Me too, because penguins are awesome.
And it's a real concern. And like the bi identity in particular is getting mistreatment from straight society, heteronormative society, and from within the LGBT community. And either way, we're passing.
Right.
Because in straight spaces, we've learned to code switch and pass as straight. And in the LGBT spaces, we've learned to code switch and pass as queer.
And all the more reason why they should be using us as the gateway to then kind of merge the two together and make both sides realize that being LGBTQ is not this death sentence. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It is, but instead there's a lot of blame.
Yeah. And we got to stop doing that. You
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
because like sometimes, yes, you have the right and, you know, you have the ability to muck things up on your own. We all do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think a certain way and you realize, oh shit, that's wrong. And you fix it. But when you allow what you've been taught for so many years, what you've seen on TV or whatever, to cloud your judgment and never try and question it, that's when it's a problem.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you know, none of us would have had rights if it weren't for Sylvia and I can't think of the man's name offhand and I apologize, but he was disabled. He was a part of the Black Panthers, I believe. And he helped feed Judy Human so that she could be able to do the sit-in. And, you know, in Sylvia and Martha, who, you know, were a part of the riots that said enough's enough. These people of color get so often overlooked. And,
Absolutely.
and a lot of time, and they're the ones that are intersectional. They are Black, they are Hispanic, and they're LGBTQ, and or they're disabled.
Right. And the other part of it is there's a lot of folks in those identities too who are bi and they're written as lesbian or gay. Same kind of reasoning. Oh yeah, no, I remember seeing in Crip Camp, they talked about how they weren't allowed to call out and connect with people, and the deaf community was like, "We got this." Started signing out the window to signal the help, you know, what needed to be done, what needed to be brought in, things like that. And the Black Panthers were the ones bringing food over hot meals, at least every day, to the people participating in the 504 sit-in. And so I think we're at the most powerful when all the marginalized communities co-identify as marginalized communities and support each other.
Exactly.
Yes. Now be careful because that's a radical, you know, thought. And I, you know, I say this partially joking and partially because that's what killed Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Is when he started saying that poor people and Black people and Asians and Hispanics, white, doesn't matter. All of us deserve dignity, the ability to work, and 3 meals a day. That's when they started saying, okay, he's done enough. And, or maybe they were just idiots. I don't know, but it just seems perfect timing. And he was assassinated for those thoughts when he started bringing everybody together. But that's what wins.
Yes. And the disability community, by which I mean people with disabilities, not people who identify as disabled, is the largest minority community in this country. And that's likely true globally. So I don't think we have the stats to back that up yet.
Well,
That's another.
they say,
And it's the easiest one to join.
yeah.
Yes, it's the only minority identity people could join
Right.
at any time for any reason.
Yeah.
You're only one infection, accident, or incident away from becoming disabled.
Right.
Yeah, and it doesn't care if you're rich or poor. It doesn't care if you're Black, Asian, or Hispanic, or white. It doesn't care.
Nope.
If it's your turn, it's your turn.
Yep.
But it's like there's at least 1.3 billion in the world that has that are disabled. I don't know exactly if that includes those that don't realize they're disabled.
I was going to say that probably wouldn't include me because I wouldn't have said I was disabled prior to like last year.
So if you figure that there's so many people that don't realize it because it's not the typical look.
Yep.
Because, you know, they always talk about, you don't look disabled. And it's just like, what does that look like?
So that's a good point with FND. And I don't mean this the wrong way, but do you get that where you don't look disabled and do you have issues with that and ableism because of that?
Oh, of course. My it actually is kind of, in a way, the other way around for me. What it is I look normal, in quotes. But when my FND symptoms kick in, it can be anything from rocking back and forth, slamming into things, limping, dragging a leg behind me, all different kinds of muscular movements that don't fit normative expectations.
Okay.
So what I get is things like, oh my God, she's having a seizure, call 911. Or I've had people assume that I was mentally incompetent. And like, I was on the train once and the conductor was going around and whispering to all the people around me. And I eventually find out from her that she's trying to find who's traveling with me, because obviously I can't be traveling by myself. So she can tell them to make me stop rocking back and forth because that looks dangerous.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's why we need to be more visible.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's annoying, it's degrading, and so many other adjectives, adverbs, whatever you want to put in there.
Oh yeah.
Because it's ridiculous. And like, it angers me to an extent, because partially I don't fully fault these people. Because again, for so long, disability always looked like a wheelchair.
Yes, that's still the universal symbol.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I love the universal symbol. It's great, whatever. I don't have a problem with it. But we have, and it's also a problem within the community too, because they don't always realize that unvisible, unapparent things
Invisible.
well, I don't like the invisible, because
That's true.
That's why I use non-apparent.
right.
Yeah.
Because non-apparent, people who have experienced it or something similar will go, oh, I know what you're doing.
Right.
Where your average person who does not have previous experience with that particular type of disability thinks you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I've picked up on using non-apparent as the descriptive.
I think it's clearer too, because invisible indicates something else. I think in my mind, whereas non-apparent doesn't negate the fact that you have disabilities. It just means not everybody can see it all the time.
Exactly.
And when you have those non-apparent disabilities, whether it's mental or even physical, and then you still get crap from within the group that you're trying to join because you don't look, and it's just like, we got to stop this looking shit.
Like, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest problems we as the greater disability community are facing. We're so siloed, and we're so used to being siloed and medicalized. People are divided by either what kind of condition they have, or how it impacts their function. And so, like, us as a larger community don't all get together, and it's really hard to build things for the whole community, because so many people like specialize and niche down, and there's so many differences in what we need, and there's so little communication or lines of communication.
Right.
It's tough.
And like, you bring up a good point though, because sometimes I think why we get so siloed is that what I may need may not be great for somebody else. Could be a barrier for them.
Yes.
And it's hard to think in abstract of universal needs versus, well, I specifically can't do this. I specifically need this. I don't want to think about what other people need because I need this.
And I have to fight so hard to get this.
Right. And so it's hard to think of other people when you've had to fight God knows how many times with a doctor or the insurance to get what you need. Yes. And so, and I get that. It is hard to think of other people when you're so busy fighting. But at the same time, we have to. Yeah. We have to think in terms of Well, okay, maybe we can't think of what would universally work for everyone. Because, for instance, not everybody needs glasses. And that makes sense.
Right.
So, but we still have eyeglass stores for those who do need it. So if you don't need it, don't go there.
Right.
If you need, but we can always put ramps, because regardless of whether or not you can walk or you need a rollator or whatever you need, ramps make it much easier to get in and out of a store than steps.
Right. And that's even true with a lot of non-apparent disabilities. Plus the whole concept of like curb cut effect,
Right.
with it being useful for people who are temporarily or situationally disabled, which is another set of terms I love.
Yes. And a lot of them don't always think of it in those terms either, because
no.
we're so conditioned by doctors and media that it can't possibly be disability unless it's permanent, and unless even like sometimes you also get like this feeling where because you weren't born with it, then there's that issue, or you didn't have it happen to you when you were a teenager versus it happened when you were in your 30s. And we have to hold room for everyone in order to truly fight for everyone to get a seat at the table. We have to hold the seats open for everyone, regardless of whether or not you can see it, or it seems like a lost cause in some people's minds. Doesn't matter.
No, absolutely. And it's also like having a disabled identity, becoming disabled is a loss, especially when it's you become rather than you're born that. And so part of what I talk about in my first book is that recognition of the loss and recognizing what it is and what it means, and why everything in society is telling you how horrible and bad and terrible it is. And that's a message people are too ready to absorb and hold on to.
Oh, you mean that message of I would kill myself if...
Yeah. Yeah.
That sweet message for Hallmark.
Oh, yes. If I had your disability, I'd kill myself.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the Hallmark card. Now, next.
Right. And so I really want to dig into, okay, so this is what society is telling us about disability, and this is the reality. Let's separate these things. It's very hard when you become disabled.
Yeah.
It's very hard to function in an ableist society that wants everyone to act abled. And we constantly get, and a lot of folks with disabilities are accused of faking being disabled, when the reality is, no, we're just trained to fake being well.
Yes.
Yep.
And I like the term undisabled, because I think there's honestly more disabled people than undisabled. And I don't necessarily like able-bodied, because and you, if you use it, you use it. I don't have a problem with it. The reason why I just say this, though, because I've read like so many people kind of feeling like the difference being disabled or abled just kind of brings a worse connotation, and makes that loss even all the more prominent for those of us that have it later.
So I like the term abled and hate the term able-bodied, because able-bodied leaves out the mental health community.
Right.
Leaves out all of the people with connective tissue type diseases or autoimmune conditions, all of these things that technically the body works, but it doesn't work the way it's ideally supposed to. And they have to do things to make up for that difference.
Right.
And that is a huge part of the community, and one that's even more stigmatized, and especially the mental health community.
Yep.
Yes.
And so I'm trying to make sure that my thoughts, my words are as inclusive as possible. So that's why, like, throughout all my stuff, it's abled and disabled.
No, and I like that. And because being able, undisabled, whatever words that fit your thought process has to be universal enough so that other people can understand what you're saying, and yet kind of hold a special meaning for you, too. Because when I think of, all of those people whose bodies are, let's just say, for lack of a better way, not only neurotypical, but neuroabled, because everything works perfectly. And it's frustrating sometimes when they talk about, how you're supposed to look and how you're supposed to feel and how you're supposed to be, and just be grateful that you have that little table scrap. Like we're all, what was that cartoon? Oliver, and all the other stories and books on it. I mean, movies on it. There was only one book of Oliver, but, but basically, us being a bunch of orphans saying, "Can we have some more, please?" And, or, Tiny Tim, that god awful inspiration porn that I have hated ever since I first heard the little shit say, "And God bless us, everyone." And I hated it from that first get-go. Not because he was disabled, but because I hated his voice. But anyway.
And like, that's how disabled people and the disabled identity are too often treated. We're props. We're inspiration porn. We're there to make the abled people look better rather than being there to be ourselves.
And I hate the idea that it takes disabled people to make other people change. That whole idea that Dickens kind of... I understand that the time frame when he wrote it was such, but when you look back on that, it just always makes me cringe. Because if it weren't for Tiny Tim, he really wouldn't have changed.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be somebody on the brink of death all the time to get the protagonist, antagonist to, maybe I shouldn't do this?
Yeah, well, and that's part of the standard of painting disabled people as weak, as failures, and all of that. I mean, I think a very basic vocabulary and identity process people have issues with is having a disability versus being on disability. I happen to fit both categories, but too often, including employers, people are like, "Oh, if you have a disability, that means you can't work." No.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Even if you can't, why does that matter?
Right.
We should not be weighed in gold.
No.
So I have a question for you about your diagnosis with FND when that kind of happened for you. You said it took 3 years from the time you started feeling the symptoms. Was that because of medical error and just kind of ignoring it, or was it more just an investigative time period and making sure things were right?
Well, it's all of the above.
Okay.
Basically, in my FND is very often triggered by stress. In my case, I was in a relationship that became abusive, and the partner that I was with, part of me knew I needed to get away, and part of me wanted the comfort and love. And so I'd be like hugging him and holding on to him, and I would shake all over because my brain was like, I shouldn't be here and I should be here at the same time. It was this conflict that it couldn't resolve, and the same trigger brought out both emotions. And so after I tried to escape the relationship and it got really messy, I ended up seeing a neurologist for these weird movement symptoms I was having, where just I was shaking sometimes, I was rocking sometimes. If somebody said the word twitch at me, I would. Really weird things that didn't make sense and were really disruptive and so obvious there was no way to ignore them. And she basically was like, "Oh, it's anxiety. Here, take these pills and have a nice life."
We hear that so often.
So initially the problem was I was misdiagnosed as having anxiety. at this point, I do think anxiety is an appropriate diagnosis for me, but it was not the correct explanation for the sudden
Yes.
severe muscle movements I was having.
Right.
After I finished the school year, I set myself up on 2 off-campus trips, and so I only came back to school the final term of my senior year, and I had healing time from that relationship. And so I only had a few very mild symptoms, and they were during times of big stress, like midterms and finals. And so I basically just wrote them off to the people I was friends with at those times, and was just like, it's a stress response, it's anxiety, I'm fine. And I went into remission for a bit over a year, and I traveled. I flew to Australia and wandered around there for like 8 months. I had an amazing time.
Awesome.
And on my way home, I applied to a couple of grad school programs. And when I interviewed for the grad school program, I started shaking. The anxiety came back a little bit. And I'm like, okay, it's anxiety. I should get it checked out when I get home. I'm going to be home in a month or 2. It's fine. And I found a great job, did the job. I didn't think about it. And a few months later, that job lost funding. And the uncertainty of that job losing funding that I loved. I was working as a fishery observer. I was living on a shrimp boat. It was the life. I was
wow.
with the job. Second trip out, they're like, yeah, we lost funding. We have no idea if we're going to have more work for you or not. Good luck. That was my Christmas present. And I just signed a lease for an apartment, my first apartment ever, with a friend. And I was in this, lot of stresses going on. And I started having some new symptoms, and I had those movements came back a little bit, and I had some bladder issues, and I started seeing doctors to try to figure out what was wrong. And within 6 months of that happening, I went through 3 neurologists and 2 psychiatrists and a week-long hospital stay, and eventually was referred to a movement disorder specialist who finally was able to look at everything and tell me I had conversion disorder, which is now new theory, but called a functional neurological disorder. Conversion disorder is a psychiatric explanation for the symptoms.
Okay.
Which doesn't fit.
It only fits for some people. I was one of the people it mostly fits for. It also can trace its roots directly back to hysteria. So I get somewhat consistently accused of having a made-up condition that's based on misogyny and sexism, and that I need to go find somebody decent to actually get me properly diagnosed. And so then I get to have the conversation of, no, this is legitimately the condition I have.
And that's why they partially changed it from conversion disorder. Because even if it is anxiety, even if it is depression or anything like that, the things that you feel,
Are
the
real.
gait movement problems, those are 100% real. They're not fake. They're not, ooh, you know what? I'm feeling anxious today, so I'm going to trip over everything because I just think that'll be so much fun. It's not that. Nobody, well, okay, maybe somebody out there loves tripping, but for the most part, most people don't do that.
Correct. And so the thing is, conversion disorder and the history of it, conversion disorder, one of the differential diagnoses was basically prove you're not faking. The hallmark of FND is that the symptoms are unreliable, unpredictable, very wildly in severity, intensity, and what they are. And they're distractible, meaning if you are intensely doing or thinking about something, they don't happen, at least to some degree. So basically, all of the things that would happen if you were faking also can minimize or mitigate your FND symptoms. I'm fortunate in that sense. My symptoms were so obvious and strange that after a few false starts, I was taken to people who were like, yeah, no, this is obviously not being done intentionally. And this is unavoidably something that's happening to her, where other people with FND have things that are even harder to explain or harder to do a differential diagnosis on. Like there's people with FND who have functional blindness, where their eyes absorb the information, but their brain doesn't know it. So they can't see. But every once in a while, some information gets through. And so they can comment on somebody having a nice shirt, but they have no memory of seeing the shirt. You know?
The brain is weird.
Yeah.
It's very weird. And so FND is at that intersection of psychological, psychiatric, and neurological. It's right in between.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now it's a big umbrella that covers a lot of different symptom sets. And what brings them all together is they're a neurological symptom in response to triggers. And that's it. So it's any neurological symptom out there can be an FND symptom.
Which doesn't really help because it's so broad.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's about what's the triggers. Why does it happen? So like there's people who have like weakness on one side of their body. So it looks as if they had a stroke, but they didn't have a stroke. Okay. So is it a hemiplegic migraine, a stroke we missed, or FND? See how they recover.
And some don't recover too.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I'm in the small to medium percentage of people who my FND has stuck around. I've been dealing with it for over 20 years. My symptoms shift all over the place, but I have not had a real symptom-free period since I had that year-ish of remission before I was diagnosed.
I guess you need to go back to Australia.
I'd love
There you go.
Yes.
There's your excuse.
That would be brilliant. That would be
Yes.
so much fun.
We all need to leave the US. We all just need to go and, vacation in France or Australia, New Zealand, go see where they filmed Lord of the Rings.
If this is too personal, you don't have to answer. But did you have problems with getting Social Security disability? And did you have I guess that's my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll stop there.
Getting an SSDI is always a fight.
Yeah.
Period. It is a big struggle. It has been steadily getting worse since I got on, because I was lucky. I got on in 2003. I got on exceptionally fast, which was 8 months.
Wow.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really interesting because it usually gets a while, but people who don't understand the system are like, oh my God, that's fast. And people who have been through it are like, how did you get it so quickly?
Right.
And that's a piece of what inspired me to offer coaching services to help people to apply.
Yeah, because it's really hard.
Yeah.
And we know of people who got it for a sore back. And because I can I can see, then I don't need disability.
It's in her legs. She can sit and work on a computer, so they figure she can work, so she doesn't need disability, even though she has a 120 step limit from her doctor.
And even though the medications that I take will knock me out.
Right.
So maybe we could use your coaching. But anyway, I wanted to also talk about your books.
Oh, absolutely.
I know you've kind of mentioned them already, but you've got the two of them, Recognizing Bias and Disability Finances.
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of go into more detail on this?
Oh, absolutely. So Thriving While Disabled, Recognizing Bias is this kind of deep dive into understanding things through the lens of disability and the lens of disability history. So I've got a chapter literally entitled Disability History. I also made a point, because I was working on these books as the election results came in. And so I made a point of talking to a few people in other countries too, because ableism itself is a very universal issue.
Yes.
The details vary, but pretty much every country out there has an ableist bent.
Yes.
Disabled people are some form of second or third class citizens. We're expected to fail, and so on. So the first book is really, I'm using the US as an example and talking about US laws to give people, but I'm getting down to the nitty gritty because that's what I know. But I make a point of this is happening everywhere to some degree.
Right.
So I talk about capitalism and disability and just help people walk through disability, being a minority identity, taking care of yourself as a person with a disability, and processing what that means. I also do like the second section is like kind of life milestones through that same eye of disability. So I've got a chapter about the right to exist, talking about things like Canada's medical assistance in dying and euthanasia, and on the other end, abortion and forced sterilization, birth, and IVF, and just how those impact and are impacted by disability and ableism.
And that's
yeah.
really cool to have gotten to really learn the different cultures in different countries and how ableism and disabilities are affected in every country. That's awesome.
It is.
So I will not say it's a thorough,
Right.
otherwise it would be huge.
Yeah.
But it's this, let's get some perspective. Here's examples from other
And
places.
that makes a huge difference, because sometimes you can't always understand certain concepts unless you've physically been through it, or you get those examples and it's like, oh, okay, I understand that now.
Exactly.
And I do want to point out that the hypocrisy of discarding disabled people is so stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Because, for one thing, we as humans would not have made a damn lick of difference in this world. We would not have had societies, cities, towns, and all that stuff if we didn't share, for one thing, and take care of each other. The first sign of a civilization is, how did they take care of their disabled? Whether it was temporarily disabled or permanently disabled. Did they think of them as wise beings, or did they just say, go into the woods, see you later?
Right.
Most of them thought of them as wise beings and saw them as people that could provide really good insight, and they thrived. And a lot of those inventions, say like, C-sections, dentistry, open heart surgeries, they were invented by some nomadic, some stabled societies that would be considered barbaric to, the English at that time. And so we can't say that because we care for our disabled that we're failing. We're not. That actually makes us a better society.
Well, and that whole idea of disabled as defective has only been around for a few hundred years. A lot of that came around with the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
Because before that, people tried to get all of the utility they could out of everybody, including people with disabilities. And so, the person with disability might have been their family's responsibility, but they found a way to contribute to whatever the family business was. Whether that was childcare, food prep, or some part of the work process, the family figured out a way for the disabled person to give. There's a whole book on disabled history, which is just amazing. Of course, I can't remember right now. I can give it to you guys later, but it's basically, I want to say Kim Nelson, but it's the history. It's part of this revisioning history series. And so like there's one book on like the LGBT community and so on. And she did a book on disability, and it was a really great read that helped inform my writing because, yeah, she had stories about a school teacher who was just severe mental illness. And the town was just like, well, he's going to teach the kids. He's educated. And okay, so he climbs up on the roof some days and pretends he's a rooster. We'll just get him back down and
Yeah. Let him say cock-a-doodle-doo and let him teach.
As soon as he stabilizes, he'll teach the kids again. It's fine. So, like...
And what's funny, too, is that when we became industrialized nations, that was a mass disabling event.
Yes,
because we forced children and poor people and, quote unquote middle class, into these dirty environments that cause breathing problems.
Yep.
That would be disabling. People lost limbs.
Yep. That's
disabling. Even more disabling than, the person standing on a roof saying cock-a-doodle-doo for the students to come in.
Right.
And, they lost fingers, they lost arms, they lost legs building these textiles. I guarantee you, POTS was probably, in fact, I know POTS was first kind of starting to be described at that point because of the conditions that people were suddenly forced into that weren't natural for us to breathe in.
Right. And, so it's this weird relationship, and I'd say it's also strongly related to capitalism.
Of course.
In the sense of that's what turned it from supporting yourself to what's your financial value.
And supporting the bigwigs.
And by the way, there's a whole bunch of things we are not defining as financial value. And that includes everything women did.
Yes. Yes. 1,000%.
Anything that former slaves did, we're now calling unskilled labor, and like all of these layers of discrimination that made it even harder for people with disabilities to move forward and get ahead. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of layers to this. And also disability payments tend to be poverty wages.
Yes, which doesn't make sense.
No, because we have more expensive lives.
Right.
And extra expenses and fewer free hours in the day. And yet, the way the U.S. has defined poverty is still based on the cost of maintaining a household in 1955.
Right, which is great for 1955.
Right. Not so much for us. And it takes it does not take into account all the changes in quality of life or the switch from a single income household to a multiple income. And I talk about that
and marriage.
The whole story of that at the beginning of volume 2, Navigating Disability Finances, because I start that with let's define poverty and talk about how countries define poverty, because how the U.S. defines poverty is what's going to determine your eligibility for over half the programs I'm discussing in the book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you can't get married. It doesn't, you can, but you can't.
So yeah, basically if you're on SSI, getting married will almost definitely cause both you and your spouse, if they're also on SSI, to lose benefits. Because the current law is people on SSI, an individual on SSI can't have more than $2,000 in assets.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple on SSI can't have more than $3,000 in assets.
Which doesn't make any sense.
No. If it had been updated just to inflation, it would be $10,000 for an individual, not $2,000. But they didn't think to include that in the law.
Of course not.
They probably thought about it and decided not to.
Yeah.
Possible too.
Because this is America,
Right. And so SSDI, there's an extra kind of disability tax in the sense that if you're on disability, about half of your disability check is not taxed. If you and your spouse are there, you're in a different income zone, and so more or maybe even all of your disability income is taxed if you file together.
Which just, again, begs the question. You want us to work.
Right.
You want us to contribute.
Yep.
But you don't take into consideration how we can contribute. And,
Correct.
you know, capitalism doesn't really necessarily care. They just want the dollars flowing.
Right.
So the best way to get dollars flowing from everybody that, you know, since you want that to happen so badly, if you pay people living wages, guess what happens?
buy
People
stuff.
spend. Yeah. And you'd actually make more money than even a trillionaire if you paid people what they're fucking worth.
Right. And like in that, I actually the end of book 1 of Recognizing Bias is a group of suggestions about things that would make society better for people with disabilities. And one of the things I mention is universal basic income. And I point out that it's quite possible that if you get rid of all of the programs that we currently have that are built around paying people an income, that might pay for the UBI when you take into consideration the salaries, the
bureaucratic crap.
everything, all the bureaucratic red tape, and so on. You know, that might take care of it,
Right.
or at least come close.
And there's countries that do that, and they're thriving.
Yep, and it's that kind of messy.
But it also comes down to, unfortunately, racism.
Yes,
Because
it does.
for some reason, our country, you know, everybody else seemed to manage to figure out, yeah, I don't like this race, I don't like this color, but I still want universal health care. No, we are so far up our own asses that we would rather have abso-fucking-lutely nothing than see a black person have something.
Yeah. I can also, many of the disability support, many of the disability and unemployment, like the social welfare programs, kind of stopped getting much, but didn't get any more adjustments to make them pay more after it was like, black people have the right to them. Oh, well, we're not going to give any money then. Yes, it's a mess.
And I don't understand that, you know, because like I said, everybody else figured out their shit. And I'm not saying that they're not racist countries. They are. They have their issues. You know, UK is, look at what they did to Meghan Markle, marrying into the monarchy.
Right.
So I'm not saying that we're the only racist country, but we're the only ones that are stupid enough to keep saying, no, I don't want a house. I don't want clothes. I don't want a car. I don't want to breathe. I don't want to eat because that black person over there can.
Right, because they might get some too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, all of the BS welfare queen story, which is
Reagan,
possibly based on a real person of indeterminate race. Sometimes she identified as white, sometimes she identified as black, sometimes she identified as Hispanic. She's mixed. Nobody knew her full ancestry. And yeah, she made out and all of that, but how can you blame a race for one person's actions? But that's part of the problem and the challenge. And so what I did with navigating disability finances was I kind of laid out, okay, here's a whole bunch of major life situations where you, as a person with a disability, are going to need protection. And here's a whole set of ideas and resources to help you protect yourself. So I've got chapters on employment, including protecting your employment, understanding your insurance options, and understanding work culture and using that to analyze where you're currently working and decide, is this a place I should keep working now that I'm disabled? Or if I'm disabled and trying to return to work, is this a place where I'm likely to be able to keep my job, or should I not bother with this place?
Right.
Because I want people to succeed.
And those are important questions too. Because, you know, even if there was no such thing as disabled, and we were all 100% neurotypical bodied, and you still have to kind of make the job fit your personality so that you can thrive in this situation. So yeah, when you add in all of those other intersectionality points, it's very important then to be able to say, this is going to allow me to thrive. This is going to allow me to, do my best.
Right. And so I kind of, part of what I wrote into that was, look, if you are a woman, if you are a person of color, you've probably already had to think through these things. But now you're just adding on the layer of disability. If you aren't used to these things, you've been privileged and welcome to the minority club. You know,
Right.
it's that kind of thing. I also talk about like public transit and housing and understanding U.S. health insurance and comparing that to other countries' health insurance, as well as trying to like save money and understand expenses related to health insurance. And part of what I really wanted to do with them was not just talk about the financial expenses, but also the physical, mental, and emotional costs.
Yes.
Because those get mentioned much less,
Yeah.
but it's exhausting.
Definitely.
It is. It is very exhausting, just living sometimes. And then when you add in trying to work or trying to run a household, those invisible labor costs,
Yep.
It's very daunting.
It is. And so I do a lot of giving my readers reassurance that, no, you're not imagining it. It's hard, period.
And it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be. But the way our society currently is functioning, it is. You're not imagining it. It's not your fault.
Yes. And definitely don't think that you're stupid or anything, because no, the system is designed to keep everybody as much as possible down so that there can be only a few at the top.
Oh, absolutely. And it's, too many people put in an application for any of the programs, get rejected and give up. And it's like, no.
No, you got to fight.
Yeah.
And expect to be rejected at least once. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. That's just them seeing if you really want it.
Yeah. Which is ridiculous too.
Absolutely. 100% is ridiculous, but it's how the system works. And if you go in knowing that, when you get that rejection, you're not crushed. You might be angry, but you're not crushed. And you can dot the I's, cross the T's, draw the triangle, whatever it is they need you to do, and send it back. And then you'll probably get the thing.
So, speaking of, you might be angry. We need to start wrapping it up. Before we go, I want to give you a chance to let people know where to find you, your advocacy, your books, and anything else you want people to find about you.
All right. So basically, my website is www.thrivingwhiledisabled.com. And everything's there. My books are both available to order on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And at this point, Recognizing Bias is available in all formats, hardcover, softcover, and not all formats, but hardcover, softcover, and ebook. And Navigating Disability Finances is currently only available in ebook format.
Okay.
All right.
And
Awesome.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's
Yes,
been
and I
a
loved the
wonderful
conversation. Yes. Sorry, Mike. You want to say what you said again? Because I talked over you, as I usually do.
Yeah, you do.
Shut up.
I just said it's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. One other thing I meant to add in there.
Sure.
I also can give you guys a link. I had just put together a mini ebook for people called Should I Apply for Disability?
Awesome. Okay.
Cool.
That talks about what's involved in applying for disability, how to check eligibility, and the mental emotional struggle that people often go through with that process, because that's the thing that doesn't get discussed.
No, it doesn't.
We've been there.
Yeah, we have. And we were completely and utterly like, what the hell? Throughout the whole time.
Yeah.
And so, yes, thank you. Thank you so much for doing that, because people need to know how to navigate, how to.
And that's not easy.
No,
No,
no, it's
no,
not.
It's designed to be not user friendly because they
Right.
want as few people as possible, and they do as many rejections as they can. Is
Right.
38% of people who apply get on their first try, and that stat is a few years old at this point, so it's probably gone down even more.
Which is,
Yeah, I was thinking that number seemed awfully high.
and it's sad because, a measure of a good and great society is taking care of those that, can't always contribute 100% the way you think they should.
Yep.
And finding other ways to measure somebody's worth is a great thing, because you realize that a hug or, what they've discovered, how they paint, or, the colors that they love is so much more important than whether or not they can hand you a $2 billion check.
Yes.
Well, let me rephrase that. If they give you a $2 billion check, love them for that. But
All right. Again, thank you so much.
yes, thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Othering Podcast by Mike and Dory. Please like and follow us on all of your favorite social media.
The Othering Podcast is produced by Loudcore Productions, graphics by Josh, and music by Jordy James.